Deep in the Canadian wilderness, there's a chasm of rock 120 stories high. It's a land so forbidding that few have even tried to probe its depths. It's a land where only the surest and the boldest dare to travel. This is the Grand Canyon of the Stikine River, 60 miles of continuous fury, some of the toughest white water in the world. 10,000 cubic feet of water each second forced into a narrow gorge of sheer rock. No one has ever fully navigated these waters. The last person to tackle them died trying. It's only fitting that this legendary river should attract a unique breed of adventurer. People who make the impossible look easy. A team of world-class athletes will test themselves here. The team includes Bob McDougall and Lars Holbek. Lars was part of a group of kayakers who tried to run the canyon in 1981, but they were only able to navigate portions of it. This is a chance to try for the whole thing. Rob Lesser was also part of the 81 attempt. This is a chance to extend his skills to the fullest. As one of the foremost whitewater specialists in the world, Rob is ideally suited to lead the expedition. A team of 7 rafters will join the kayakers for the descent. 10 people in all will challenge the legend. Their goal is to be the first in history to run and survive the length of the Stikine Canyon. These people know the dangers that lie ahead. They know a mistake can cost them their lives. But the Stikine is their Everest. They must try it. The expedition will begin here in Canada, tucked away in an isolated corner of British Columbia. The river starts quietly, a trickle of meltwater from an unnamed glacier on an unnamed mountain. It winds and grows, pushing its way toward the Pacific Ocean. 180 miles downstream from its source, the canyon begins. This land is true wilderness, a place where wolves, bear, and caribou outnumber people. So remote that even getting here requires enormous effort. French-Canadian Claude Marchand is a specialist in dangerous situations, fighting forest fires, conducting search and rescue operations, guiding an expedition into a canyon barely wide enough to clear his rotor blades. In the days ahead, he'll become an invaluable member of the team that now assembles at base camp. This is the first of many landings on these shores. Once the descent begins, they'll have to return here each day, but the canyon's so steep there's no place to camp overnight. They're assembling the best people, the best equipment and resources for the task at hand. But they need time to coordinate all these elements, merge them into one cohesive unit.
Drop in. Pretty funny. Amazing. I think there may be a little more accomplished than what the colors say.
A collection of strong individuals does not necessarily make a strong team. Teamwork is particularly essential for the 5 men and 2 women in the raft. Each of these people is used to being a leader, used to calling their own shots. But a raft doesn't need 7 leaders. In order to surmount the obstacles that lie ahead, they need a single mind and only 1 leader. In the course of the training period, one person will emerge as a natural choice, someone calm and level-headed with a sound sense of priorities. Peter Fox. Peter will organize the work ahead. They must learn to maximize the strengths of each individual. They must check every detail right down to the smallest foot strap. They must anticipate problems before they occur.
tight in here. Isn't it hard for you to get your foot in?
Seems like we need to figure out from Claude what his view is on how maneuverable he's going to be in the canyon.
Well, most of the canyon actually has a little bit of a rocky beach or rocks on the side that are...
That comes sloping out to the river?
Yeah, that's right. And the only places where you can't really do anything is where the angle of the wall is just about 90 degrees with the water.
We have to be very careful. We've got to find some way to look at every section of water we enter so that we know, well, once we're in it, that we're not going to be swept down for a couple of miles and go into one of the major rapids that we're not prepared for.
Well, Rob, how effective are the kayakers going to be for rescue?
Maybe specific eddies the kayakers could be waiting in those eddies so that you'll know where they are.
What have you found to be the best technique as far as pulling someone in?
The best thing is to get up. You've got to get up on the back of the boat, get your legs spread on the side of the boat, and either grab around the cockpit to hang on.
And once we're near, we should let go and swim on our own, because we can probably cross an eddy swimming as well as on the back of their boat. I think we're just going to raise havoc with them.
One thing I would like to know, is it better for us to be dropped off on shore, or is it better for us to be brought back to the raft?
Each situation will probably be different.
Depends on how far they are from the raft.
If we're above the narrows, it's much better to get on shore and just let the raft go. But if we're in a situation where we're
I suppose then that's where Claude's help is going to come in then, because if we get dropped off on shore by a kayaker and then the raft is downstream and Claude can't land it, then what the heck are you going to do then?
We'll just read each situation.
This is the advantage of this helicopter, is that you don't need much of a shore to be picked up. And that's where I can sort of, as much as I can't guarantee most of these shores, I can pick up somebody there.
Do you have some type of a cable that you can let down to us with a horse collar on it or something like that? Or?
That's one part that is really hard for one helicopter to rescue 8 people.
Peggy Lindsay voices a thought shared by many.
You ask yourself, what have I gotten myself into? And the scariest thing is that you just don't know. No one's ever done this before. Hell, we haven't even seen the canyon yet.
Base camp is located on land homesteaded by Willie Williams, a Charlton Indian. Willie and his family guide horsepacking trips through the Upper River Plateau. Today, they'll lead part of the group to the lip of the canyon. After months of studying flow charts and aerial photographs, they'll finally see the river firsthand.
Okay, guys, let's hit it.
Have a nice ride.
Moving along Willie's trail, we could hear it long before we saw it. Just a steady roar, growing and building. As we got closer, even the ground seemed to vibrate with its power. The Grand Canyon of the Stikine.
Unreal!
Man,
Not pictures or charts or survey maps, but the real thing. This is what we had come so far to try.
That's pretty amazing.
Those waves that don't look too big from here?
Whoa! For us, what we need is to have good recovery around the corner. If we have to flip a raft or have people swim, it's not real good if there's another big drop around the corner.
The best way to conquer fears is to face them head on. In this case, that means they must scout. One would normally do this on foot, but down here, helicopter's the only way. Rob scouts the first stretch of the river with a video camera, so that everyone will get a chance to study what's ahead.
Classic hydraulics. I mean, boy, am I interested in how to jump this corner. The size of these waves in here is definitely something that would, well, I think easily flip you. And then that right-hand chute right below us is, boy, that's got rocks all over the place. The problem with the Stikine is it's so isolated. I mean, the fact that we're flying in a helicopter right now, it's just, if you're running about a mile-long rapid in here, very little chance. Now, if you catch some of those eddies, you're going to...
Chopper surveys, videotapes, rarely needed on even the biggest whitewater rivers, but essential on the Stikine. Technology like this does, however, take some getting used to. No one here has ever watched TV in the middle of the bush before.
One thing we've used... There is no question this is the most high-tech river run ever. But once we decide to go down to a place like this, you know, we're committed. You know, we can't turn back.
So something like this, I think we've got to stop at the last chopper place above it, and then maybe go down and take an immediate look at it, you know, a couple of fresh eyes. And then if not, I think that's the point we have to make our decision to go over something like this.
Yeah, I like to get a real good focus on where the eddies are that we can really make use of. I don't really...
Eddies are the quieter pools of water above and below a rapid, a place for rest or rescue. They're our only safety, really, so it's important to know where or if they exist. It's also important to know if the kayakers will be able to wait there to act as rescuers if the raft flips. So when we watch the tapes, we look for the eddies, and we look for the line, the path within the water that will give us the least resistance and also give us the best speed, the momentum we need to push through. You try to memorize the river, print its image in your mind.
On board the raft, each paddler will take a position that complements their skills. The group is beginning to function as a team, but there's more work to be done before they're ready. These athletes have experienced some of the toughest rivers in the world, in Africa, India, New Zealand, South America. But those are warm water rivers. The Stikine is glacier fed. They must acclimatize themselves. They drill over and over again. They need speed, power, coordination. Soon, it will be the river that forces them upside down. If the river flips the raft, the bodies dumped out can be swept into the current or smashed on the rocks. Survival may depend on how fast they can right the boat and get back into it. Everyone must work together.
And I guess overall, it's probably one of the primary differences between trying to run a raft team down versus a kayak, in that everything you do, it's your own decision, and you bear the consequences of that decision. But as a raft, we all have to think together as one animal and move the boat down together as one.
Months of planning, weeks of training and conditioning have gone by. Finally, the day arrives. This is the day they've been waiting for.
Okay, look down. Ready? Up. In the water. Slide it on down.
They put their boats in the water just like any other day. They push off from shore just like any other day. But it isn't just any other day.
The thing that separates a first descent from any other kind of a descent is that, you know, you get the full freedom of your imagination because no one has ever been down there before. A lot of the real dangers and the fear that are involved are what you conjure up in your own mind before you get on the river. The picture you create in your mind of what a river is going to be like before you go down can be a fantastically horrible thing. It can be like a nightmare.
Entry Falls, a 25-foot drop. The first chance to see if reality is anything like the nightmares of the mind. The falls have been scouted by helicopter, but the river has changed overnight. The expedition must stop. Scout the rapids on foot. Putting in above the falls, they begin the treacherous climb. In a canyon like this, even taking a look is dangerous. You don't skin your knee or twist your ankle if you slip on these rocks. You end up in the river. Sheer rock walls rise 1,200 feet, funneling tons of water into a gorge only 50 feet wide. A confrontation of natural forces which make Entry Falls one of the worst whitewater sections in the canyon.
All the training and years of experience, all the planning and getting ready, it all comes together into one question. Can I do it?
You've got those, you've got a slight depression in there. What do you think the chances are of making that? Making it, not getting stuffed down that little, I think we're gonna hit it.
See, this last night looked like a good way to go because there was more water going up that pour over, but today, you know, that's just gnarl.
Maybe if we could just get our paddles dug into that thing, you know, that one streamer that's going through. It's going right. That's where we want to go.
As you come into those two rocks, there's a lot of current scraping on that side.
Yeah.
And
it's moving from left to right.
Now, the one thing, there are no
curls that are really helping you until it's too late, right up there on top of the rock.
As long as we get the bow to come down the side on this side, we'll be okay because we can grind over stuff with the stern of the boat. But it's still going to be tight. We can slam that rock real hard.
A large boulder obscures the view of a critical section. Even from the air, they can't quite see behind the rock. The kayakers force their way to the far side, move into the very lip of the waterfall to take a closer look.
What does the rapid look like from down where you are?
We're down here right on the edge of the hole. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to run the chute or the waterfall drop over the top. I really don't know what's happening out there in the middle. You've got a possibility of a run down the center, but it looks like the run out is going to cause some problems. Okay, roger.
They must regroup to plan their next move. What had the kayakers seen that those on the other shore could not? Can they make it over Entry Falls?
I don't think there's any way we could get left in that slot.
No way, no way. The current just is prevailing wrong. We've got to watch for little innuendos of getting sucked down, especially in boiling water.
Squirrely water.
And that's what it happens right there, right behind the rock that you can't see from the other side. Yeah. It's just, there is no way that there isn't. It's just boiling, and it's just going straight forward.
Looks like it's going straight across the top of that ski jump rock. Just like
well, it's going straight across the ski jump, but it's the thing that's happening is it's boiling as it goes over. And like if you're in a kayak, for one, trying to make the slot is difficult. Secondly, trying to make the ski jump so that you can actually
right on the money.
Hit it right on the money, because what happens? You miss it to the right and you're right into the wall, and it's just a terrible configuration. You miss it to the left and you're right into that undercut and the garbage. But just as far as rafting, I felt that if you're going to go over there and you're going to hit it sideways and you're trying to make the move, the ass end of the boat is going to kick around and it's going to drop off side. Yeah. You're probably going to hit the rock and you're going to unload some people.
If we're going to do this scouting, let's go in the right before we run it or the morning before we run it.
That's a good point.
So, flying it the night before, this water might drop 2 or 3 feet.
If you want to scout it, and in the morning, you have to allow enough time to scout it, move your people, move your boats.
The expedition decides not to run Entry Falls. It's a group decision, but some take it harder than others. Some wonder if the kayakers are too cautious. This is not a good start.
I think we did the right thing, but what's right for me may not be right for everyone. The problem is bigger than just this one decision. We've all known all along there'd be small sections we probably can't do. We call them the suicide runs. But none of us expected to come across one so soon, right at the very beginning. So a decision like this sets up all sorts of questions. I mean, maybe there's a good reason no one has ever run this canyon before. Maybe it really is unnavigable.
The drop at Entry Falls may have defeated them, but no one's ready to give up. The helicopter slings the raft to a point just below the falls, and the expedition gets back to work. They work as fast as they can to reinflate the boat, anxious to get going and get on the river.
Better plan. Don't let the air up.
I was born to be
It'll function. Bubba, you got that straight?
Your hands are working, but so is your mind, and the time that it takes to do everything is frustrating. You just want to get on with it, you know? Not talk about it or think about it, but do it and do it now. The window of opportunity on this river is very small. There's only 2, maybe 3 weeks in a year when you can even think of trying to run it. In the spring and summer, the canyon just has too much water in it. Meltwaters from the mountains. But if you wait too long into the fall, the water will drop too much, exposing more of the rock. So we've only got this one chance. We have to keep moving.
60 miles of river stretch ahead. The limits placed by the river, by time and supplies, mean the expedition must cover 5 miles a day. That's 5 river miles. They'll cover many times that climbing and scouting. Every mile of progress represents hours of struggle.
Stop! And forward! Unison! Here we go! Nice and slow! Looking good! And stop!
As they approach each major rapid, the group will decide who goes first. The first boat down is the test. there's no way of knowing if the line selected will be the right one. In this case, on a set of rapids nicknamed Wicked Wanda, kayaker Bob McDougall takes the lead. There's no one waiting below if he should get into trouble. One boater is safe. Rob is next. As the saying goes, if you're doing it right, you make it look easy. The raft pulls into an eddy. They'll wait for the last person down. In this case, that's Lars. Wedged into a custom-fitted seat, the kayakers risk being pinned upside down, pummeled by tons of water. Right side up is the only way to do it. What is it that draws a rational human being into such violent waters? What makes someone do this? Rafter Steve Ellsberg answers.
I kind of thrive on that fear, that good, healthy fear of the unknown and what lies ahead, and not quite knowing how the rapid is going to kick you around or what's around the next bend, or how you're going to handle yourself in those situations. Also, the challenge of people saying that the river or the section of river is unrunnable. You know, that makes the challenge even greater. To know that your footprints may be the first that are placed on some sandy beach, you know, that feeling is good. The feeling of going out into the great frontier and possibly being the first.
The expedition moves deeper into the canyon, closer to their goal, but further and further from safety. Man has always felt a need to explore. It seems a land that challenges is also one which inspires. Today's adventurers dream of a first descent in the canyon. Back in the 1800s, people came in search of a different dream: gold. Thousands moved along the Stikine looking for the shortcut to the Klondike. They were nicknamed the Tenderfeet, for few had any idea what hardships lay ahead: starvation, illness, frostbite, exhaustion. Most came by boat: sailboat, paddleboat, canoe, anything they could get their hands on. They fought for passage on any vessel going north. All were forced overland when they reached the canyon, but even the lower river proved too rigorous for most. Many would drown, but many more would press on in search of their dream.
Well, the boatmen dance and the boatmen sing and the boatmen do most anything. Dance, boatmen, dance, dance, boatmen, dance. Dance all night till the broad daylight, go home with a gal in the morning. Hey ho, the boatmen row, sailing down the river called the Ohio. Hey ho, the boatmen row, sailing down the river called the Ohio. Well, I never knew a pretty gal in my life, except that she was a boatman's wife. Dance, boatman, dance, dance, boatman, dance. Dance all night till the broad daylight, go home with the gals in the morning. Hey ho, the boatman row, sailing down the river called the Ohio. Hey ho, the boatman row, sailing down the river called the Ohio.
It is dawn. Like the boatmen of the 1800s, the expedition is blocked by the forces of nature. To get back to where they left off the day before, they must fly in from base camp. But they can't fly if they can't see. The rain is another enemy. The Stikine has been known to rise 20 feet in 24 hours. That could mean an end to the expedition. They're powerless to do anything except wait. On this day, they're lucky. The rain stops before the river rises too much.
Once we're moving, the confidence comes back. There's still miles to go, but when you're making progress, you start to build a real good feeling. Everything's working right, the weather is holding, our boat is handling well. It's a real good design, you know. Every time we get hit with a wave, the water drains out through vents in the floor. We have control. We're working as a team, and the river feels manageable. It's not like you're conquering the river or anything. You can never conquer a river like this.
Stikine is probably the most difficult river that I've ever seen. A great rafting river is a river that's hard enough so that it's going to really challenge you, bring out the best in the people that are running it, put you right on the edge of what you're capable of doing. And by that edge, I mean that the consequences are a possibility of some sort of injury, serious injury, or possibly even a fatality if you make a mistake.
I remember once a friend told me that heading into violent water is like someone is holding a gun to your head, and that's exactly how it is. You feel like you've been shot at, but they missed. You made it.
After each major section, the expedition must stop to get their bearings. They've scouted in the chopper, but the river looks different from water level, and they can't afford to proceed blindly. If they don't choreograph each move, they could get sucked into a section they're not prepared for. They study the detailed drawings made while they watch the videotapes.
Well, there's not any detail, but we're basically coming off Blamey Creek, So we're right here. We're just upstream from Site Z. I mean, now I've got a lot more anticipation of it. I've got a lot better idea of what it looks like, and I think that, you know, going into it with some sort of game plan, you're okay, and you know when you can let up and when you can't.
Right, well, that's what we need to get it real close.
Yeah, so let's go into it with a positive point of view, too. You know, your point of view is pretty cautionary, you know, but we would like to go in there and look at it with some sort of positive point of view and see if it looks like there's a way we think we could do it within our capabilities.
So it's going to be important that we get a real good helicopter scout and memorize it.
The decision to scout further is not one that's taken lightly. Each day of progress means base camp gets farther away. The daily trek out of the canyon takes longer. Every hour spent in the air is an hour they can't be on the river. There's another problem as well. The raft moves more slowly than the kayaks. They've not even reached the halfway point yet, but all feel a sense of urgency. They need to pick up the pace. Rafter Dan Bolster describes the tensions in the boat.
Well, running big water that is serious big water is a difficult thing because everybody in the boat is keyed up, we're nervous, we're all basically scared about running the rapids, and it's a real challenge to keep control of yourself.
You can't run hydraulics like the Stikine unless you have confidence, unless you know that the decisions you make are the right ones for you. You have to know where to draw the line, but that line is thin. There's such a very thin line between stretching yourself to the edge and falling over it. I enjoy living, but I want to keep on doing it, you know.
Peggy Lindsay will draw the line at Wasson's Hole, a rapid named for a kayaker who almost drowned here in 1981. John Wasson turned down the invitation to join this expedition. Peggy turns down this set of rapids. There are only 6 people in the raft this time. Before the run, the group had thrown logs into the river to test the current. All the logs were swept into this eddy and stayed there. Exactly the same thing happens to the raft. They try to pull out, but the river's stronger than they are. It forces them back in. This eddy is what made Peggy decide not to run Wasson's Hole. She felt that if the raft flipped, she would end up here as a swimmer, and a swim in here would not be fun. The canyon wall forms a sheer rock overhang. The chopper can't possibly rescue them here. There's only one way out: climb over the boulder and haul the boat around.
I was delighted they were successful, real excited for them. Maybe if I'd been in the raft pulling with them, they wouldn't have had that problem in the eddy. But I know what my abilities are, and I'm not too proud to say, hey, this isn't for me. I was perfectly happy to rejoin the raft downstream a ways. I can live with that decision. There's so many things acting on you. The fear, the physical drive, the water, the noise. You feel so intense. You're wide awake, pumping. When you hit a quiet section like the one above Site Z, you get a chance to think. You remember every hour, every minute. Life just isn't like that off the river. But out here, you're really opened up to the world around you.
Site Z is an abandoned hydro project, a ghost town now. For the expedition, it helps take the pressure off. They're almost halfway through the canyon, and by staying here, they can save time, avoid the hours of daily travel. But it's more than just a handy stopover camp. The plans for this place started 15 years or so ago. They started quietly, away from the public eye. Then in 1971, a newspaper editor trekking through the area on his holidays discovered a work crew. The crew was conducting secret surveys of the river. The Stikine suddenly became the center of a heated debate. Slowly, the magnitude of the plans leaked out. Site Z is part of a multi-billion-dollar project that would see a hydroelectric dam built at this point in the river. A dam 75 stories high that would flood almost 37,000 acres of wilderness. For now, the expedition has Site Z to themselves, but the engineers and cement mixers could move back any day. For now, the bears and the mountain goats can call this place home. No one knows how long it will stay that way. If the dam goes in, virtually all of the canyon and the surrounding land used by the Tahltan Indians will be flooded. An artificial lake of questionable need will wipe out 50 million years of natural evolution. The place is a monument to man's interference with nature. It is protected only by a small group of people like biologist Monty Bassett. Monty is a director of a research foundation. He lives and works in the area, tagging wildlife and keeping a watchful eye on the Stikine's fragile ecosystem.
To this buttress here, for the last few days I've been camped up on this mountain here watching the goats. There was never a time that I wasn't in sight of at least a half dozen goats. And they estimate that there's probably a population of 300 to 400 goats just living on the rim. It's a sad affair in this province that we have so much untouched, and right now the push is to put in these mega projects. There is no consideration of what legacy we're going to be leaving for our children.
Well, we haven't put a value on our natural resources as they are.
Right. But there's also the argument that maybe 100, 200 years down the line, we're going to have to tap the Stikine for power. By then, we've gained 100 or 200 years of natural resource before we've had to do it. In other words, there's no necessity now to have to put in these dams. As you say, Peggy, it's kind of a self-perpetuating thing. You have an engineering division that physically can put in a dam, so they say, well, we must put in this dam.
In choosing Site Z for a dam, the developers have done their homework well. The rapids here are the strongest, the fastest, the biggest drop in the whole canyon. The rafters must portage the upper section, a decision which creates its own problems. The raft must be deflated, supplies must be packed up and shipped downstream. This is a major proposition for an expedition of this size. Even if only the bare essentials are moved, there's still a lot of gear. The sling for the helicopter must be loaded. 2 trips will be needed just for the equipment, and then 2 more trips for the people. Claude's helicopter is ideal for maneuvering in the Stikine's narrow gorge, but because it's comparatively small, he can't risk overloading it. Precious time is lost. At least 3 hours just to move a few hundred yards downstream. Site Z is left to the only ones who stand a chance here, the kayakers. Both kayaks and raft are well suited to the river, but each boat, like each individual in that boat, has its own limitations.
The degree of difficulty in the rivers that we do pretty much speaks for itself. I think generally the kayaking community is fairly conservative. I don't think there's any place on the river that there's no time for kicking back and feeling like, gloating over the fact that you're totally in control of the river, because you're never in control of the river.
There's many ways to experience a river and many things to be seen. There's a beauty in the intensity of big white water that makes you look pretty deep inside of yourself. And then there's, say, a flat section like this, calm, flat water, and you can reflect on just being outdoors and the beauty of the natural surroundings.
Life of a voyager, that of a soldier, travels around and round, but not from town to town. Travels the lakes and streams, follows his distant dreams. Peace on the waterways, blue skies and cloudy days. My life has but one home, from which I'll never roam. Land of true happiness, Canadian wilderness. The cry of the lonely loon, coyotes yapping at the moon, wind rustling through the trees. That's my Canadian breeze. Smoke rising from the fire up to the sky in stately spires. All is calm, the evening glows, the sun goes down the northland road.
The things that are happening in this watershed, the dam, the cutting that's going on down below, the mine up at the headwaters of the watershed, are all happening within the last 10 years, and they're happening quite fast, and they're happening so fast that many of us who have come from all over the world and have seen the changes that this has happened in other places are seeing that it's happening here and feeling a great sense of frustration that we can't stop it. And it's got to be even more so for Willie and his family, who live in the watershed. Their whole heritage is in the watershed.
I think our biggest fight is that our people lived along this river for centuries, yeah? Mm-hmm. And it may be a challenge to you guys or to Hydro, but it's a different challenge to us to keep it alive, And we don't want to see it die, because the river has a lot of history behind it. Not only with our people, with the mining and the gold rush and everything,
Yeah.
So the river is part of our lives, and it's part of us, because if it wasn't for the Stikine River, the Tahltans won't be here.
This area seems to only be reserved for, let's say, power production.
Well, to us, it's our land, but to the government, they say it's Crown land. But they've never made no treaty. We never sold it. We never gave it to them. So I feel it's still our land. Yeah. Until they sit down like you people are sitting here with us.
Willie's right, this land does belong to the people who know and love it. We're just lucky to be able to borrow it for a few weeks.
Days pass. There is struggle, but they punch through. One rapid after another is successfully descended. With 7 strong individuals in one boat, it's no surprise when differences of opinion arise.
Somebody gets hurt,
they get flushed downstream, we could be running into some late hours before there's any help around.
Chopper pilot thinks that tomorrow might be our last day of running whitewater.
This rapid is appropriately named the Wall. Half want to run it, half don't. Peter says it's like being married to 6 people at once.
We run an awful lot of whitewater, and very rarely do we ever back down, meaning kayakers, do we back down. But then the public perceives it as if we never back down. And I think that's unfortunate, because we definitely do. We portage a fair bit. We're operating at the level where you have to psychologically be into it, you have to physically be into it that day. To me, that's what gelled about the kayaking group. When one person was having an up day, another person was having a down day or whatever, and we all carried one another through the whole thing.
For me, it's like once I decide to portage a rapid, it's no big deal. I've done a lot of boating in Central and South America. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of rivers and had to stand there and look at literally thousands of rapids and decide if I was going to go or portage. The Stikine, as far as I'm concerned, compared to everything else I've done, is about the most radical big water that I've ever seen and frankly ever hoped to see.
We're having a lot of success. Much of that is due to our skill, our courage, and teamwork. But you can't help but wonder if at least part of it isn't just plain luck. It's almost like someone or something greater than all of us intends it to be this way. You get to a place like this, the Garden of the Gods. We call it that because it looks like some giant hand just kind of sprinkled around these enormous rocks. Anyway, it takes real skill, real team effort, and precision maneuvering to finesse around these boulders. But we're also hitting it at just the right water level. There's got to be some kind of luck here. It's like a blessing of the gods.
In my mind, is one of the last truly wild, incredible river canyons. It's huge and complex and very mysterious in a lot of ways. I'm sure there are other canyons that are just as remote, but they don't have the spectacular scenery and the challenging rapids. It's a gem, for sure. One of the whitewater gems of North America.
Hitting the bottom of this run means they're almost there. This will be the last challenge. All the fury and power of 250 miles of river is funneled through the Tanzillo Narrows, a gap in the rock only 6 feet wide. The kayakers thread the needle first time, running Tanzillo in a single wave. They have made it.
It's something that I'm going to be proud of for a long, long time. And I'm also going to be proud of the fact that I saw more things than just the whitewater. I really got a deep sense of just the magnificence of the place. And that's very, very satisfying to me.
The rafters will have a harder time of it. Their boat, an amazing piece of technology that's carried them through so much, just won't let them through. The gap is 6 feet wide, but the raft is 8 feet wide.
Two feet, that's all we need, 2 feet. I'm not sure how yet, but come hell or high water, we're gonna make it. There is no way we'll quit now, not this close to the end. No, we're gonna make it through Tanzilla, even if we have to pull and push the sucker through. We're gonna make it even if we have to swim.
We can surf that.
Success. They've attempted the first complete descent of a canyon that people for centuries have described as unnavigable. In the process of doing that, they portaged 3 rapids. The questions and frustrations come back to haunt them. Have they done enough? Have they made the most of this chance of a lifetime?
We have to focus on our priorities. I mean, what's the most important thing to you about this whole trip? Was it running every rapid out here? Reaching your potential? Was it seeing the canyon, the river? Was it saving the river? You know, to me, the very most important priority of this trip is the fact that we can bring this river to other people, that bring this canyon to other people, so that maybe it'll last. There won't be another one down the tube.
I came up here to run as much of the river as we could possibly do. No matter what the reasons were, if it was one person, time, chopper time, money, whatever it is, I still feel incomplete.
You know, I mean, if there's one thing that I think is really important on a river, it's for someone to know their limits and know when not to run. And I'm completely supportive of Peggy choosing her limits and deciding when she's not going to run. I have no problems with that. You know, the only other thing that you have to take into account is that there is going to be a big frustration on the part of some other people if their limits are very different.
Probably we should look at ourselves. It's probably the mistake we made. If Peggy didn't want to run certain things, she could have rode in the chopper and we should have just took the initiative to do it.
Last night
I know.
said that.
That's what I'm saying, is to look at ourselves. We made the mistake too, saying if Peggy was uncomfortable with that, then she walks around or rides a chopper, and we should have just said, if we're going to go for it, let's just do it.
This is the wrong tone to end on. Despite any personality differences, any conflicts they may have had, the members of the expedition feel a commitment to their group and its goals. Anger, doubts, and frustration are not the tone on which to end such an enormous effort. There might be a solution to the problem. The water level is rising. They can take one more run, one more crack at the point which has come to symbolize their frustrations. Entry Falls.
Hold that line. Down all the way. Feel that line. Settle into nice, easy forward. Easy forward.
It feels right to come full circle, back to the head of the river. We started with 10 different people, 10 different lives, put them together and made them work. We fulfilled our dream. We've achieved something no one else has ever done before, maybe something no one else will ever be able to do again. experienced a land that is so rich, full of magic and power and beauty, but we've also experienced the threat that hangs over the land. The simple fact of the matter is that the Stikine is one of the last wilderness rivers left on the face of the earth. It only takes one thoughtless project to wipe it out. And once it's gone for good.